Meditation on inevitable death should be performed daily. Every day when one's body and mind are at peace, one should meditate upon being ripped apart by arrows, rifles, spears, and swords, being carried away by surging waves, being thrown into the midst of a great fire, being struck by lightning, being shaken to death by a great earthquake, falling from 1,000-foot cliffs, dying of disease, or committing seppuku at the death of one's master. And every day without fail one should consider himself as dead. Yamatomo Tsunetomo Hagakure. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mildra, and I will be your gaming monk for the evening. While my weeb status has been well established, I freely admit that I grew up on samurai films and westerns in equal measure. It's my love for the numerous period dramas that I grew up with that I've wanted to carry into tabletop RPGs. Of course, this means I'm no stranger to the concept of chanbara, what most would call samurai cinema. Some of the big examples, of course, being the long-running Zatoichi series, or things like Lone Wolf and Cub, and the countless depictions of Miyamoto Musashi, the most recent form being the Vagabond manga. Animation-wise, there's no way I can talk about this style of storytelling without mentioning Rurouni Kenshin, which happens to be one of my personal favorites, to the point that I wanted to cover the OVAs in the Parliament of Geeks series, which is currently on cold storage. While there's been a fair amount of Japan-centric tabletop RPGs, ones that focus specifically on the stylings of chanbara are a bit more slim pickings. Which brings me to the subject matter for today, Blood of Honor and, to a certain extent, World of Do. Dubbing itself as a game of samurai tragedy, released under the John Wick Presents banner, Blood and Honor was one of the first games to be spun off from the Houses of the Blooded game, also by John Wick, depicting tales of warring clans based on the Sengoku Jidai period. This would later be spun into the more noir-esque World of Do, which is intended to focus on the Tokugawa shogunate all the way through the Meiji Restoration. Fortunately, both games have the same general mechanics, and thus are built to be cross-compatible with each other. How does it hold up? Let's find out. Blood and Honor runs at 181 pages and has a single column setup, while World of Do is slightly larger at 237 pages. I know I say a given game is magazine-like in occasion, but in this case it's more accurate to say it feels like reading a pamphlet. A very large pamphlet, but a pamphlet nonetheless. Additionally, the book is relatively easy to navigate, though for some reason my PDF copy of World of Do has no bookmarks, or an index. It's well designed, but there is that little bit of navigational snag. Character creation is not necessarily an isolated affair, but rather a collaborative one. Naturally, this makes my format tricky, since you're not just making a character, but a clan. We'll be exploring this by creating a Shimizu clan. Now the first step is the clan's daimyo, the clan's lord. In this step you choose the disposition of the daimyo, which grants an advantage and a disadvantage. In our case, the Shimizu daimyo is a clever type of daimyo. This means that the equipment granted to Shimizu clan samurai is considered good quality equipment. But those same samurai have the non-traditionalist tag, and that tag may be used on them in social situations. Regardless of choice, the daimyo's starting rank is 1. The second step is virtue, and the answer to the question of which of the 6 virtues does the clan hold above all others. These 6 virtues being beauty, courage, cunning, prowess, strength, and wisdom. Of these 6, we'll go with cunning as the Shimizu clan's virtue. The third step is holdings, the resources that the clan has at its disposal from within the clan's province. Normally this is done by having each player within that clan gain a single rank 1 holding. For the purposes of this example, let's suppose there are 5 players as Shimizu clan samurai. In this case, we'll go with blacksmith, Buddhist temple, dojo, rice farm, and garrison, each of these being rank 1. Now the fourth step are the clan's defining aspects. These work similar to the aspect system in Fate, but unlike Fate Core, there's actually examples to build around since it isn't categorizing aspects into things like high concept or trouble, which are very, very broad. The clan gains 4 aspects, each with an invoke rule, using the aspect in a way that benefits you, and a compel rule, the aspect being used to enforce certain behavior, but granting an honor point. You start with the aspect, none of us are as great as all of us, and pick out 4 more aspects. For the Shimizu, we'll go with the following. Even a thief must learn his trade. If my dog knew my plans. Fog cannot be dispelled by a fan. all married women are not wives. The fifth step is the province's meibutsu, their famous thing. Now what form this takes varies, but it's some kind of thing that your province is famous for. Something that's made the best there and nowhere else, according to that province. In our case, we'll go with takoyaki. The sixth step is the clan's name and heraldry. We already mentioned the clan's name is Shimizu, and its heraldry would be a 4-pointed star. Finally, the clan's truth. Each player would be able to add one truth about the clan, so long as it doesn't contradict another truth. In our case, we'll use every house in the clan's province has at least one spear. The creation of clans can certainly work, but it's a case of messing with my format, as I mentioned before, since this is a method that demands a session 0 with some of these steps. While I've been critical of aspects in the past, this is one case where that isn't as much of an issue, since there's examples present to give a bit of a guideline. However, in things like truth and heraldry, those could do with an example or two, especially since they can have some mechanical significance. Same with truth. Bottom line, it's only held back by a common issue with what I call blank check design. Character creation is a similar 7-step process, and we'll explore that with the samurai code named Sachiko Shimizu. The first step is choosing a name, which we'll obviously skip. The second step is giri, or duty. This is the role you fill within the clan. Your chosen giri can grant a specific ability and benefit. Of the available giri, we'll go with Oniwaban, essentially the spy master of the clan. This allows Sachiko to know a number of truths about NPCs and have her spy network eavesdrop on a number of events. Both are equal to her giri rank, which is 1. The third step is virtues, which are your core attributes. There are 6 of them, but you only have access to 5 of them. In this step, you have 1 virtue at rank 4, 2 at rank 3, 2 more at rank 2, and a single virtue as a weakness. In our case, we'll go with Beauty 2, Courage 2, Cunning 4, Prowess 3, Strength as our weakness, and Wisdom 3. The fourth step is Aspects, which works similarly to the Aspects step in clan creation, though you pick from 2 of the clan's aspect and gain None of Us is as Great as All of Us for free. In Sachiko's case, we'll go with Every Thief Must Learn His Trade, and If My Dog Knew My Plans, as her 2 aspects. The fifth step is Honor and Glory, which start at 2 and 1 respectively. The latter denotes your standing as a samurai, and you're essentially starting as a low-ranking one. The singular rank of Glory also creates a reputation at rank 1. In our case, we'll go with Weapons Master as Sachiko's reputation. The sixth step is Advantages, of which we choose 1 of. In our case, we'll go with Perceptive, granting a free wager on cunning rolls. And the final step is Age. This is not the character's actual age, but the starting number of age points that they have. This is being determined by a d6 roll, and in this case we rolled a 1, giving us a single age point. Character creation is pretty straightforward, but it's clear that it's nearly impossible to divorce clan creation from character creation, which is why I didn't here. Well, there is the option of being a Ronin, but that's not advisable unless you're damn sure about it. What I'm saying is that a session 0 is almost mandatory for this kind of game. It also means that people who are used to making character creation in isolation or off-table are going to have a bit of a adjustment period. Blood and Honor uses a d6-based die pool, where the target number is always 10. However, this is not a case of you succeed or fail, rather that on a success you get to narrate the action, and on a failure the GM narrates the action. You can generate your die pool if a certain stat is applicable to the roll, and these stats are used as follows. Giri adds 3 dice. Virtue adds dice equal to the relevant rank. Clan name adds 2 dice. Personal name adds 1 die. An aspect adds 3 dice, and you may only use 1 aspect, though you can tag another person's aspect to add 2 die. There's a few other instances, but these are the major ones to note. Additionally, you may declare that you're making a wager. This is done before dice are rolled and at a degree of success, essentially an and but statement to the narrated action. If you make a roll without wages, it's viewed as a basic success, the bare minimum. Wagers allow for better success, the akin to raises in Legend of the Five Rings. The exception to this cost rule are free wagers, which are self-explanatory. They grant the effect of a wager, but do not require spending a die. Aspects are used in Blood and Honor, but only in the sense of having the pairing of Invoke and Compel. Invoking adds 3 dice to roll, as mentioned before, and compel forces a character to act a certain way but gain an honor point. On the other hand, you have the option of refusing a compel, but this costs 3 honor points. As hinted at elsewhere, honor is a kind of extra effort mechanic for the game, though not exactly. This is primarily represented by a shared honor pool, a unified resource that starts out with a number of points equal to the combined honor ranks of all PCs present. At any time, a PC may take a point from the pool and either add an additional detail to the story in a manner similar to wagers, and alternatively, they may add 4 dice to a roll. Certain die rolls that put the clan or themselves at risk can potentially add a point to their honor pool. Regardless, it doesn't refresh between sessions. Now, glory, on the other hand, is a means of utilizing your personal legend in a mechanical sense. Whenever you succeed in an action relevant to a reputation you have, or by converting 2 wagers, that reputation gains 1 glory point, with every 10 points gained increasing the rank by 1, or create a new rank 1 reputation if you so choose. This rank may grant additional die relevant to a roll equal to its rank. Regardless, you may not have more reputations than your Giri rank plus 1. However, the biggest pillar in mechanics that we have to discuss is the seasons, the game's attempt at giving mechanical weight to the passage of time, akin to the winter phase in Pendragon. Much like in the real world, there are 4 seasons that are played in between adventures: spring, summer, autumn, winter. And of course the cycle repeats. Once you go past the winter season, your characters add to their age. At each season, the daimyo gets 1 season action, and an additional 1 for each province the daimyo controls. There are 4 types of season actions. Provincial Improvement, wherein you add a new holding to a province or increase the rank of a province by 1. Craft Items, you can use your holdings to produce equipment, with higher ranked equipment being made by higher ranked holdings. Personal Training, you may gain another Giri rank or add an additional aspect. And Espionage, a special type of action built around, well, espionage. This can include internal spies, external ones, false flags, interrogations, and more. At the end of the year, each character rolls a d6 and adds it to the age pool of the sheet. Every 60 points moves them into the next season of their life. When changing seasons, or phases, you may gain new aspects, as well as special winter aspects that reflect your advancing age. These ones only have compels and not invokes. You can also switch the rating of your virtues, but you can never lose your weakness. There's a lot more I could have gone into, like the war system, having children during the winter phase, and the extensive advice given to players and GMs. But the key thing I want to focus on is that Blood and Honor uses a relatively simple system, whereas complexity comes from context. That said, I do think one's background may make the die roll more of an unlearning process. Most backgrounds treat the die roll as a you succeed or fail, as mentioned before, whereas Blood and Honor treats it as do you get to narrate the attempt or not. This is a slight change that can have bigger implications. Before I get to my final rating, I want to address one particular narrative I saw regarding this game. That being that it's a better Japan-themed game than Legend of the Five Rings because it's more accurate or less Orientalist, or whatever the buzzword of the week is. I find the comparison foolish because both are doing different things. As someone who's had to deal with the real samurai argument against L5R for decades, I don't care for this sort of purism-based gatekeeping. Moreover, comparing Legend of the Five Rings with Blood and Honor is comparing apples to oranges. L5R is a fantasy setting depicting its own world that is heavily influenced by a mixture of Asian cultures, ranging from Japan to China to Korea to India to the Middle East. Blood and Honor is rooted in historical fictions centered around the Sengoku and Meiji eras. How much more accurate one is over the other is akin to grading a racing game based on how realistic the physics are. These are games, and it's best to stop pretending they're not in the name of some historical flex that will matter little once the actual playing comes down. So, ranting aside, Blood and Honor styles itself as a game of samurai tragedy, and it accomplished that in spades. Additionally, the game managed to accomplish what Fate purports to do without any of the failings that Fate has. There's proper guidance, the emphasis on a rule of 10 die pool gives a better understanding about how much risk is worth it, and I'll always be a sucker for downtime mechanics. That said, it's somewhat held back by the reliance on the clan structure and the metagame of time. This is going to limit the kind of adventures that can be played, as well as tackling the issue of why people with such specific jobs might be out doing adventuring things, even if it's not adventures. Amusingly enough, L5R had an easy answer to this by making players Emerald Magistrates, samurai of different clans serving the greater interests of the Empire. Granted, this is an issue that Pendragon could have as well, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention it, given the new player experience is as much a factor as the experienced one. That said, I'd be willing to give the game a stamp of recommended. Blood and Honor is a very good game for those who have a background in samurai theater. Obviously, those coming in from a historical drama thing will do just as well, but I would not recommend this for first-time GMs, as it is demanding a degree of genre savviness. Nothing wrong with that, but it's something to be aware of since you're likely going to be doing as much world building as you are adventure building. For me, it'd be interesting to use this to do an adaptation of something like Tales of the Otori, a novel series I highly recommend to anyone interested in this sort of thing. Stay frosty!
In nomine Christi, Amen.